Do you see that black girl in the priority lane? Start something and kick her out so our package can get through security on time. Officer Travis Cole heard Captain Harlan's order through the earpiece tucked beneath his collar. He turned his eyes toward Maya Williams, the woman in the navy coat standing in the priority lane at Atlanta's airport, then started toward her. Step out of the line. Either you walk out on your own, or I drag you out myself, Officer Travis Cole snapped. Maya Williams tightened her grip around the medical priority pass in her hand. Sir, my brother is in critical condition, she said. The hospital in Denver is waiting for me to approve a surgery. Cole looked her over, glanced toward the empty stretch of priority lane behind her, then smiled. Then, you should have learned how to move faster. A second later, his boot struck the side of her leg, shoving her out of the airport line. What he did not know was that the woman he had just kicked had spent 20 years learning how never to fall. The sudden kick stunned the surrounding crowd. By reflex, Maya instantly lowered her center of gravity and tightened the muscles in her legs to keep her balance. She slid a short distance across the polished floor but remained standing. Travis Cole looked surprised. Then his expression turned into anger because he had lost face. He stepped forward, reaching out with both hands to grab Maya and force her down. Maya saw his hands coming. She shifted back half a step, turned her hip, and released a low, controlled Taekwondo kick into the outside of Cole's advancing leg. It was not meant to injure, but to create space and break his momentum. Cole's balance disappeared. He went down hard on the airport tile, his radio skidding a few feet away. Maya immediately stepped back and raised both hands. I am not resisting, she said. Her voice trembled, but every word was clear. He kicked me first. My brother is dying. I need to get on that plane. Cole lay still for a moment, then looked at the gathering crowd. Phones were rising. Faces were watching. He changed the narrative. My neck, he groaned, grabbing at his collar. My spine. She hit my spine. Maya stared at him. I never touched your neck. She's a trained fighter, Cole shouted as two officers rushed toward him from the next checkpoint. She tried to kill me. Near the rope barrier, Thomas Reed kept his phone up. Thomas, a software engineer, had started recording the moment Cole threatened Maya. His phone captured everything. Cole's threat, Maya's medical pass, the mention of her brother, the kick from Cole, Maya staying upright, Cole reaching for her, and Maya's controlled response. An airport security supervisor moved toward Thomas fast. Sir, put the phone down. This is a restricted security area. He assaulted her first, Thomas said. I recorded what happened. Sir, I'm going to need that device. This concerns national security. Hand it over, or you may be detained. Thomas looked at his boarding pass, then at the supervisor. He handed over the phone. A few yards away, Lena Ortiz stood beside her janitorial cart. She had worked here for 11 years, completely ignored by the officers. But Lena saw everything. She had seen Cole glance toward the service corridor before he approached Maya. She had seen the empty stretch of priority lane that had been kept clear for nearly 10 minutes. She had seen Captain Richard Harlan standing half-hidden near an employee access door. And now, through that same door, she saw a man in a dark airport jacket pulling a silver suitcase past the scanner without stopping. Maya did not see the suitcase. Two officers pulled her wrists behind her. She did not fight. Please, she said. My phone is ringing. That's the hospital. I have to answer. Inside her navy coat, the phone buzzed again and again. Children's Hospital Denver was waiting for her to help make the surgical decision for Marcus. My brother is in critical condition, Maya said to the officer holding her arm. Please, I'm a doctor. They need me. Ma'am, you need to calm down, he said. She looked toward the departure board. Denver, boarding. Around her, life kept moving, as if her world had not just been disrupted. A wheelchair arrived for Cole. He let two officers lift him carefully, his face twisted for the cameras gathering near the checkpoint. She came at me, he said loudly. I was just doing my job. Captain Harlan stepped fully into view at last. He placed one hand on Cole's shoulder and looked around at the crowd. Everyone step back, Harlan said. This is an active security matter. Maya turned her head toward him. She recognized his voice from Cole's earpiece. A cold understanding moved through her. This was not just about racial hostility. There was something else underneath it. Something hurried. Something hidden. One of the officers guided her toward a gray security door. "My medical pass," Maya said, looking down. It lay on the floor near the rope barrier, bent at one corner. Ignored. No one picked it up. Her phone rang again as the gray door opened. "Please," she said one last time. "That is the hospital." The officer did not answer. The door closed behind her, cutting off the airport noise and the boarding announcements. The plane to Denver was still at the gate. Her brother was still waiting. And the only video that could prove the truth was already in the hands of the men who needed it gone. The room behind the gray security door was cold. A metal table was bolted to the floor between two plastic chairs. A camera monitored from the upper corner, its red light blinking. The smell of stale coffee and disinfectant hung in the air. The fluorescent light hummed overhead. An officer guided Maya into a chair. She sat down immediately, knowing how any hesitation would be framed in the official report. She kept her hands visible on the table. "My phone," she said. "You heard it ringing. That was the hospital." The younger officer near the door avoided her eyes. He had sandy hair and a nervous stillness. "Ma'am, we'll get to that. My brother is in critical condition. I am his medical proxy and a pediatric resident. They need my approval for a surgery." The older officer by the table opened an empty folder. "You can explain that in your statement." "I am explaining it now." "Ma'am, lower your voice." Maya stopped. She was not loud, but she recognized the trap. She looked down at her hands. They were steady. Her father used to say that fear did not always shake. Sometimes it just went quiet. She drew a breath, counted 3 beats, and spoke flatly. "My name is Dr. Maya Williams. My brother, Marcus Williams, is at Children's Hospital Denver. He has a rare pediatric vascular neurologic disorder. His surgical team is waiting for my call because I have his records. I need to return that call." The older officer clicked his pen. "You are being detained in connection with an assault on a law enforcement officer. He kicked me first. That's under review. There were witnesses. A man was recording." The older officer looked up. "That's also under review." Muffled airport announcements drifted through the wall. Flights to Tampa, Dallas, and Newark were called. Denver did not come. Her phone stopped ringing. In the terminal, the stage was set. Travis Cole sat in an airport medical wheelchair, wearing a foam neck brace. Captain Richard Harlan stood beside him, his face tight with practiced concern for the cameras. "I was just trying to keep the lane clear," Cole told a local news photographer. "She came out of nowhere. I didn't even have time to protect myself." "That is not what happened," a woman in line called out. "He kicked her." Harlan turned toward her politely. "Ma'am, an officer will speak with you shortly to take your formal statement." No officer approached her. 10 feet away, Thomas Reed watched the security supervisor carry his phone behind a staff-only door. Another officer blocked Thomas from following. "I need a receipt for my device," Thomas said. "That phone has evidence on it." "Sir, step back. You will be contacted." Thomas stood empty-handed. He relied on the data redundancy he had trusted for 20 years as a software engineer, hoping the automatic cloud backup had finished before they took the device. Across the checkpoint, Lena Ortiz pushed her janitorial cart near the employee access door. She paused to replace a trash liner, just as Captain Harlan spoke into his radio. "Phone secured?" Harlan asked. A low voice crackled back. "Secured. Text checking the backup." Harlan nodded. "Make sure it doesn't travel." Lena kept her eyes down, her hands moving mechanically. She had learned long ago to move at a pace that made her invisible. By now, the man with the silver suitcase had completely vanished into the secure corridor. The priority lane filled with new passengers, leaving Maya's dropped medical pass forgotten on the floor. In the holding room, Maya asked for the time. The younger officer checked his watch. 4:26. Her flight was scheduled to depart at 4:38. "I can still make it if you let me go now," she said. The older officer sighed. "That's not going to happen." "Then let me call the hospital. When we finish processing the incident. This is my brother's life. If you feel for Maya in this heartbreaking moment, Please like this video to show your support for her, and comment where you are watching from, because who knows, there may be someone near you watching Maya's story right now too. The younger officer looked at her, his discomfort visible. The older officer noticed. Step outside, Miller. When the door closed, the older officer leaned against the table. Dr. Williams, a piece of advice. The calmer you are, the easier this goes. I have been calm since the moment he kicked me. A knock interrupted them. Officer Miller opened the door halfway, holding Maya's vibrating phone. Hospital's calling again. The older officer took the device. The screen read, Children's Hospital Denver. He silenced the ringer and placed the phone face down on the table. Maya's posture turned rigid. You have no right to do that. He picked up his pen. Statement starts now. By the time they permitted her one phone call, the flight to Denver had departed. Maya, baby, where are you? Evelyn's voice came through the speaker. Maya gripped the edge of the table. Mama, I'm still in Atlanta. A heavy silence followed. The surgeon came in, Evelyn said. They need a decision tonight. Put me on speaker with them. I know his markers. I can explain the data. Baby, they're asking if you're coming. Maya looked at the gray wall. Her voice cracked. I'm trying, Mama. Outside, the plane to Denver pushed back from the gate. Inside the holding room, Maya listened to her mother cry softly over the line, knowing that every delayed minute reduced her brother's chances on the operating table. By morning, Travis Cole was no longer the officer who had kicked a black woman out of an airport line. He was, according to the 6 o'clock broadcast, a dedicated public servant recovering from a violent attack in one of the busiest airports in America. The first image Maya saw of him was on the television mounted high in the corner of the airport processing office. Cole sat in a wheelchair outside the terminal entrance, wearing a foam neck brace. He kept his eyes lowered and his shoulders rounded to invite sympathy. I was trying to protect the traveling public, he said on screen. That's all. She came at me with a trained kick before I could react. The reporter turned toward the camera. Airport officials say the woman involved is a pediatric doctor with advanced martial arts training. Authorities are reviewing whether additional charges may be filed. Maya stood below the television with her coat folded over one arm. Her medical priority pass was bent at the corner, sealed inside a clear plastic evidence sleeve. Beside her, Officer Miller avoided looking at the screen. You're being released, pending review, he said. Can I leave for Denver? He checked the form in his hand. Not until you speak with the charging officer and receive instructions. My brother does not have that kind of time. Miller swallowed and looked away. A clerk handed Maya a packet of papers. The text stated that she was under active investigation. She was required to remain available, could not leave the state without approval, and was prohibited from contacting Officer Travis Cole or entering restricted airport areas. Maya signed the yellow tabs. They're keeping me here, she said. The clerk did not answer. Outside the office, David Harper was waiting. He was 52, a civil rights attorney with gray at his temples. He stood when Maya came through the door. His suit was charcoal, his leather briefcase worn at the edges. He did not offer empty reassurance. Dr. Williams, he said. I'm David Harper. Your mother called my office at 2:17 this morning. Maya blinked. My mother knows you? Your father did. The airport noise moved around them. Maya remembered her father sitting in a folding chair at her childhood Taekwondo tournaments, still wearing his mechanic's shirt from the shop. David cut straight to the facts. I need to ask you 3 questions. Did Officer Cole make physical contact first? Yes. After he fell, did you continue toward him? No. I stepped back and raised my hands. Did you notice anything unusual about the priority lane before he approached you? Maya thought of Cole's eyes cutting past her, the empty lane, and the order she had heard through his earpiece. Yes, he wasn't just looking at me. He kept looking behind me toward the service corridor. David's eyes sharpened. Behind you? Where? Toward the employee access door. Before he could follow up, Maya's phone vibrated. The screen showed her mother. Mama? Evelyn Williams's voice was strained. He made it through the night. They stabilized him for now, but the surgeon said the window is narrowing. They need you on the next plane. Maya closed her eyes. They're saying I can't leave Georgia without approval, Mama. Silence came from Denver. Maya could hear the distant beep of hospital monitors over the line. Evelyn finally spoke. Then we get approval. Tell Marcus you're coming. He knows? He keeps asking the nurses if his sister is still bossing people around, Evelyn said. The call ended. David returned from watching the television loop Cole's interview. Do you have the video? David asked. A passenger recorded it, Maya said. Thomas Reed. Security took his phone. I have his name, David said. He left a message with my office before sunrise. He says he recorded from the first threat. He believes it backed up to the cloud, but he hasn't confirmed it yet. Maya looked back at the television. Cole was on screen, saying, I was simply doing my duty. They're going to use my Taekwondo against me, she said. Yes, I didn't hurt him, Mr. Harper. I could have. I didn't. David nodded. That is a crucial fact for the defense. We have 2 fights now, one legal, one public. They are already telling the country who you are. I know who I am. Then we have to prove who they are, David said. He picked up his briefcase. First, we find Thomas Reed. Then we find out why Captain Harlan was so afraid of that video. They walked toward the exit. Maya passed a bank of monitors near a coffee stand. Cole's face filled the screens under the headline. Officer injured in airport attack by trained martial artist. Maya did not stop. She kept walking. By noon, Maya's name was across national media. On television and online comment sections, she was no longer a physician. She was framed as a dangerous attacker who had snapped in a security lane. A threat. A trained attacker. A martial arts doctor who had snapped in an airport security lane. David Harper drove her away from Hartsfield-Jackson in a quiet gray sedan that smelled faintly of leather, old coffee, and peppermint. He did not take her home. Reporters were already outside her apartment building, according to his assistant. Instead, he brought her to a small brick house in East Point that belonged to Mrs. Leona Price, a retired school principal who had known David for 30 years. Mrs. Price opened the door before they reached the porch. You're Maya, she said. Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Price opened the door before they reached the porch, looked Maya over, and closed the door behind them. Come in out of the cold. Mr. Harper, there's coffee in the kitchen. Yes, ma'am, David said. For the first time all morning, Maya almost smiled. The house was warm. A pot of chicken soup simmered on the stove. The television in the living room was on mute, but Maya could still see Cole's face filling the screen, his neck brace bright white against his uniform shirt. A headline crawled beneath him. Officer injured after airport confrontation with Taekwondo-trained doctor. Mrs. Price saw Maya looking and clicked the TV off. Not in my house, she said. Lies don't get to eat at my table. Maya sat at the kitchen table because her legs suddenly felt older than 28. Mrs. Price placed a bowl of soup in front of her. Mrs. Price placed a bowl of chicken soup in front of her. I'm not hungry, Maya said. I didn't ask if you were hungry. I put food in front of you. David sat across from her and opened his briefcase. We need to talk through the next few hours. My brother needs the next few hours, Maya said. I know. No, Mr. Harper. I don't think anyone knows. Everyone keeps talking about charges and statements and public response. Marcus is in a hospital bed right now. They are asking my mother to make a decision she does not understand. And I am sitting here eating soup because a man kicked me and then lied about falling. When Maya's phone rang, she grabbed it. The number was not Denver. It was the hospital in Atlanta where she worked. She answered carefully. This is Dr. Williams. Maya, it's Dr. Patel. Dr. Anika Patel was her supervising physician, the kind of doctor who remembered residents' birthdays but could also reduce a room to silence with one raised eyebrow. Her voice now was gentle in a way that frightened Maya more than anger would have. I want you to know I'm personally concerned about you, Dr. Patel said. But administration is issuing a statement. Maya closed her eyes. What kind of statement? Neutral. They'll say the hospital is aware of the incident and cooperating with any lawful inquiry. Neutral, Maya repeated. I argued for different language. I know. I'm sorry. Maya looked at the bowl of soup, at the small orange circles of carrot floating on the surface. Do they think I did it? Do they think? There was a pause. I think they're afraid, Dr. Patel said. That answer was honest enough to hurt. When the call ended, Maya set the phone down slowly. David was watching her. The hospital? He asked. They're stepping back. Mrs. Price made a sound from the stove. That's what institutions do when truth costs something. The next call came from a number Maya did not recognize. Then another. Then another. She did not answer them. Messages began appearing. Some were supportive, many were not. One stranger told her she should be locked up. Another called her dangerous. Another asked why people like her always made everything about race. Then someone sent a screenshot of an old Taekwondo tournament photo. Maya, at 21, mid-kick, focused, powerful, frozen mid-kick during a college competition. The caption someone had added read, "Doctor by day, weapon by training." Maya pushed the phone away. David looked at the screen once and turned it face down. We do not let strangers define the evidence. They're defining me, for now. Across town, Thomas Reed sat at his dining table with his laptop open. He had missed his flight to Phoenix, focusing entirely on his device. He logged into his cloud account to retrieve the airport video. The folder was empty. Thomas stared at the empty folder. "That's not possible," he said to no one. He checked the trash. Nothing. Recent activity. There it was. A login from an unfamiliar device. A deletion request. A remote session. He felt the back of his neck go cold. He called David's office. When David put him on speaker, Thomas did not waste time. They accessed my account. Maya sat up straight. Thomas continued, voice tight and precise. "I don't know who yet, but the video isn't just missing. It was removed. There's a login that wasn't mine, and it happened after they took my phone. Can you prove that?" David asked. "I can prove the login. I can prove deletion activity. I may be able to recover cached traces or thumbnails from synced devices, but I need time." Maya leaned toward the phone. "Mr. Reed?" "Yes, ma'am." "Did the video show him kicking me?" Thomas exhaled. It showed everything. For a moment, no one in Mrs. Price's kitchen spoke. Then Maya whispered, "Then please don't stop looking." "I won't," Thomas said. "I should have never handed them the phone." David's voice softened. "You were threatened by security in an airport. Don't waste guilt on what they designed fear to do." Thomas was quiet. "I'll call when I find something." Her phone buzzed again. This time it was Evelyn. Maya answered before the second ring. "Mama?" Evelyn's voice was low. "They changed the surgical conference to tonight. The lead surgeon said they can keep him stable, but not for long. He asked if you could join by secure video." Yes, I can. I'll review everything again." "Maya? I'm here. Are you safe?" Maya looked around the warm kitchen, at David's open briefcase, at Mrs. Price, pretending not to listen while wiping a spotless counter, at the dead television screen where Cole's lie had been a moment earlier. "I'm with good people," Maya said. "That is not what I asked." Maya could not answer right away. Evelyn understood the silence. "Focus on the medical board meeting tonight, Maya. I'll have the nurses set up the connection." When the call ended, David removed a legal pad from his briefcase. At the top of the page, he wrote 3 names: Cole, Harlan, Thomas, Reed. Then, after a pause, he added a 4th, Lena Ortiz. Maya noticed. "Who was that?" "A woman who called my office and hung up twice," David said. "Airport employee. Wouldn't leave a full message. Only said she saw the lane before it happened." Maya remembered the woman with the janitorial cart, the quiet face near the trash bins. She saw him? Maybe. "Do you think she'll talk?" David capped his pen. "Depends on what she has to lose." In another part of Atlanta, Lena Ortiz sat in her parked Toyota behind a laundromat, both hands on the steering wheel, though the engine was off. Her uniform smelled of bleach. Her phone sat on the passenger seat. David Harper's office number was still on the screen. She had dialed twice, hung up twice. On the 3rd try, she let it ring. When the receptionist answered, Lena closed her eyes and said, "Tell Mr. Harper the woman from the airport is ready to talk, but not at his office." Then she looked toward the road behind her, checking whether anyone had followed. The Dojang sat in a strip mall off Buford Highway. The sign above the door read, Taekwondo Academy. Maya parked near the entrance. It was almost 8 in the evening. Her phone sat face up on the passenger seat as she waited for the next update from Denver. Her phone sat face up in the passenger seat. She kept looking at it as if she could keep Marcus alive by watching for the next call. Finally, she picked it up and dialed Denver. Evelyn answered on the second ring. "I'm at Master Cho's," Maya said. "How's Marcus?" "Asleep for now. They are running another round of tests before the surgical board meets tonight." Evelyn paused. "Tell him I'm coming, Mama." "I will. Focus on what you need to do there, Maya." After the call ended, Maya sat a little longer. Then she took her coat from the passenger seat and stepped into the cold. The bell over the door chimed as Maya stepped inside. The front room was empty. The children's classes finished for the night. On the far wall, a photograph from 15 years ago showed Maya standing beside her father, Samuel Williams, after her first major tournament. "You always look too serious in that picture," Master Daniel Cho said from behind her. Maya turned. He stood in the doorway to the training floor. 67 years old. Silver hair cut short. Shoulders narrower than she remembered, but posture still exact. He wore black training pants and a gray sweatshirt that said "Discipline before power." "Master Cho," she said. He stood in the doorway to the training floor, silver hair cut short, his posture exact. He opened his arms, and Maya stepped forward, leaning into the quiet familiarity of the dojang. When he let her go, he looked her over. "You are standing." "Barely. Barely counts." That did make her laugh once. Quietly, they walked onto the mat. Maya removed her shoes by habit and stepped onto the floor in her socks. Her body remembered the place before her mind did. The spacing, the mirror, the flags, the framed calligraphy near the office door. Control, courage, mercy. She had read those words thousands of times growing up and thought she understood them. Master Cho sat on a bench along the wall. "Show me the kick." Maya stood in the center of the mat. She shifted back half a step, turned her hip, and executed the low, controlled strike into the empty air, stopping exactly where the impact had occurred at the airport. Master Cho watched her form closely. "You could have hurt him." "I know." "You did not." "I know." "Then why are you standing here like you did?" Maya looked at him, and the answer came out sharper than she meant it to. "Because the whole country is being told I tried to kill a police officer. Because the hospital where I work is stepping back from me. Because my brother is in Denver waiting for me, and I am trapped here, proving that I did not become a monster in an airport line. Because a man kicked me, and somehow I'm the one apologizing with my whole life." The dojang went quiet after that. "He used to tell me strength was knowing when to stop," she said. "He was right. I stopped." "Yes. Then why does it feel like I'm still being punished?" Master Cho leaned forward. "Because punishment is not always about what you did. Sometimes it is about what your refusal exposed." Maya looked at him. He continued, slow and steady. "They are not afraid of your kick. They are afraid of what happened before it." Master Cho returned from his office with a faded black training wristband. On the inside, her father's handwriting read, "Control, courage, mercy." "Your father left it here," Master Cho said. "He knew you would need it. You have a brother to reach, and a truth to carry. What if fighting this keeps me from him? What if surrendering to a lie does the same?" Maya closed her hand around the wristband. Her phone rang. Both of them looked down. "Children's Hospital, Denver." Maya answered immediately. "This is Dr. Williams." The surgeon's voice was calm, professional, and urgent. He reviewed Marcus's numbers, the latest imaging, the risk of waiting, the danger of moving too soon. Maya listened with the part of herself that was all doctor, taking in facts, probabilities, consequences. Then she heard Marcus cough weakly in the background, and the sister in her nearly broke through the physician. "Can you put my mother on?" she asked. A moment later, Evelyn came on the line. "Baby?" Maya looked at Master Cho, at the empty mat, at the photograph of her father, at the words on her wrist. "I'm going to fight this," she said. "And I'm going to get to Denver. Both." Evelyn was quiet. Then she said, "That sounds like your daddy." Maya closed her eyes for 1 second. When the call ended, she dialed David Harper. He answered with no greeting. Maya, I won't take a deal that makes me admit to something I didn't do. I wasn't going to ask you to. And I need you to help me get emergency permission to travel. I'm working on it. She looked at the wristband again. Mr. Harper? Yes? Find out what they were moving through that lane. There was a pause on the other end. Not of surprise, but confirmation. I intend to, David said. Maya slid the wristband over her hand. She stood beneath the faded Dojang sign and looked toward the dark street. The fight was no longer just about proving she belonged in that line. It was about exposing exactly what they were trying to hide. Lena Olsez had cleaned the floors of Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport long enough to know the building had two faces. There was the face travelers saw: glass walls, bright signs, polished tile, rolling suitcases, flight boards blinking with cities like promises. There were families hugging near baggage claim, businessmen walking too fast with coffee in one hand and phones in the other, grandparents wearing comfortable shoes and carrying plastic bags full of snacks for the plane. That was the airport people remembered. Then there was the other face. The service corridors behind the restaurants, the employee doors with chipped paint around the handles, the loading areas where the cameras did not quite cover every angle, the break rooms where officers laughed with their badges unclipped and said things they would never say in front of passengers, the storage closets where a woman in a janitor's uniform could hear more truth than any supervisor ever intended her to hear. Lena knew that face better. She had worked there 11 years, 5 nights a week, sometimes 6 when someone called out. She pushed a gray cart with a mop bucket, trash liners, disinfectant spray, and a laminated badge that let her into places passengers never saw. She had raised 2 sons on those floors, paid a mortgage late more often than on time, sent money to her sister in Savannah after the hurricane, buried her husband in a Navy suit he had only worn twice while she was married to him. She was not a woman who frightened easily, but she had learned to respect danger when it wore a uniform and smiled at cameras. That was why she did not meet David Harper at his office. She chose the parking lot behind a closed pharmacy near College Park, under a flickering security light and a sign advertising flu shots. David arrived first in his gray sedan, headlights off, hands visible on the steering wheel. Lena watched him from across the lot for nearly 10 minutes before she got out of her Toyota. He did not rush her. He stepped out slowly and stood beside his car like a man who understood that trust sometimes had to walk across asphalt on its own. Miss Ortiz? He asked. Depends who's asking. David Harper. I know who you are. That makes one of us at an advantage. She almost smiled, but not quite. You came alone? Yes. No assistant? No investigator? No. She looked around the lot. A MARTA train rattled in the distance. Somewhere beyond the dark buildings, a siren rose and faded. If anybody asks, we never met. David nodded. If that's what you need. What I need is not to lose my job, my pension, or my life because some captain decided the airport belongs to him. David's face did not change, but his voice softened. Then tell me only what you're ready to tell me. Lena laughed once, short and humorless. That's what decent men say before the truth ruins both our week. She pulled her jacket tighter around herself. The cold had found the space between her collar and her neck. For a moment she looked less like a witness and more like a tired woman, standing at the edge of something she could still choose not to enter. Then she said, Officer Cole wasn't trying to clear her from the line only because she was black. Don't misunderstand me. That was part of it. I've heard him talk. I've seen who he pushes and who he smiles at. But yesterday wasn't just that. David waited. Lena glanced toward the road, then lowered her voice. That priority lane was held open on purpose. Medical assistance lane, wheelchair access, emergency documentation, all of that. They kept regular passengers from filling it for almost 10 minutes before Dr. Williams got there. Who kept it open? Cole. 2 other officers who do what he tells them, and Captain Harlan from the service side. David took a small notebook from his coat pocket, but did not open it yet. Why? Lena looked at him directly. A silver suitcase. David was quiet. She continued. Man in a dark airport jacket came through the service corridor. No proper scan, no delay, no regular checkpoint. That suitcase went past the scanner while everyone was watching Dr. Williams get arrested. Did you see what was inside? No. And I don't want to know. Do you know who the man was? I've seen him before. Not every week, but enough. Always different jacket. Always same suitcase, or one just like it. Sometimes black. Yesterday, silver. When it happens, a lane gets cleared. A camera gets serviced. Somebody gets moved along if they're standing in the wrong place. David finally opened the notebook. How long? Lena swallowed. At least 2 years that I noticed. Maybe longer. And Dr. Williams? She was in the wrong place. Lena's jaw tightened. No, that's not right. She was in the right place. That was the problem. She had a pass. She had papers. She wouldn't move just because Cole told her to. She was standing where she could see the suitcase come through. David wrote that down. Lena looked offended by the neatness of it. You understand what I'm saying? He didn't just kick her because he thought he could. He kicked her because Captain Harlan told him to clear the lane before the package came through. Did you hear Harlan say that? I heard enough. I need exact words if you have them. She closed her eyes, replaying the corridor in her mind. Her memory was not dramatic. It was practical, built from years of remembering which dispenser was broken and which supervisor lied about overtime. Through Cole's earpiece, before he went after her, I heard something like, "Clear her now." Later, when I was changing a trash liner near the employee door, I heard Harlan on the radio asking if the phone was secured. Then he said, "Make sure it doesn't travel." David stopped writing. Lena saw his hand go still. That means something, doesn't it? It means they were worried about Thomas Reed's video leaving the airport. They took his phone fast. Yes, and that phone showed the truth. According to Mr. Reed, yes. Lena looked past David, toward the empty pharmacy window. There's hallway footage. From the service corridor? She nodded. Camera C-17. Sometimes audio catches radio chatter if they're close enough. Not supposed to be clear, but it can be. Maintenance has complained about it before. Can we request it? You can request anything. Harlan controls what comes back. Is there a backup? Lena's silence was the answer before she spoke. There should be. Auxiliary server. Maintenance archive. 36 hours before overwrite unless someone manually saves it. David checked his watch. How long do we have? Less than 24 hours. Maybe less now that they know people are asking. Miss Ortiz, I do not want you risking yourself by accessing anything illegally. She gave him a flat look. Mr. Harper, I clean bathrooms at the busiest airport in the world. People have been asking me to risk myself for minimum respect since 2013. This is different. I know it's different. That's why I called. A car turned into the lot, headlights sweeping across them. Lena stiffened. David closed the notebook and slipped it into his pocket. The car passed slowly, then continued toward the street and disappeared. Lena breathed again. David said, "Why now?" She looked down at her hands. They were rough from years of chemicals. Her nails cut short. The skin at one knuckle cracked. Because I watched that girl stand there with her hands up, begging to call the hospital, while every man with power around her started building a lie. And I thought about how many times I've seen people moved, pushed, threatened, laughed at, and told to calm down. Her voice thickened, but did not break. I kept telling myself I was being smart, keeping my head down, keeping my job. But yesterday, when that phone rang and nobody let her answer, I thought about my youngest boy. David did not ask. Lena told him anyway. He had asthma bad when he was little. Real bad. There was a night I drove him to the ER with one hand on the wheel and one hand on his chest because I couldn't tell if he was still breathing right. If somebody had stopped me that night for no reason, if somebody had decided their business mattered more than my child's breath. She shook her head. I can't unknow that feeling. David's voice was low. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be useful. I can do that. Good. She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded maintenance schedule. Camera system maintenance was moved up. Tomorrow morning, 4:30. They'll say it was routine. David took the paper. Can you testify to this? Lena looked at him as if he had asked whether she could step in front of a train politely. Eventually. Maybe. But if my name comes out before you have proof, Harlan will bury me before breakfast. Then we get proof first. You better. His phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. Maya. Lena noticed. Is that her? Yes. Don't tell her everything yet. David frowned. Why? Because she's got her brother on the line, and the whole city calling her dangerous. If she hears this before you can protect it, she'll carry one more weight she can't lift tonight. David looked at Lena for a long moment. You think like someone who has survived offices where nobody protects the truth. I think like someone who has mopped floors after men like Harlan walked away clean. He answered Maya's call. I'm here. Maya's voice came through thin with exhaustion. Did Lena talk? David looked at Lena. Lena looked back at him and gave one small nod. She did, he said. She saw enough to confirm the service corridor matters. Was there a suitcase? David hesitated only a fraction. Yes. Maya was quiet. Then she said, So I wasn't imagining it. No, you weren't. On the other end, Maya exhaled in a way that was not relief exactly. More like a woman discovering that the nightmare had a map. Marcus's team moved the conference up again, she said. I have to be online in 40 minutes. Then do that. I'll handle this piece. Mr. Harper? Yes. Please don't let them erase it. David looked down at the maintenance schedule in his hand. I won't. After he hung up, Lena stepped back toward her Toyota. Miss Ortiz, David said. If the footage exists, and if it shows what you think it shows, it could change everything. Lena opened her car door. That's why they'll do anything to make sure it doesn't. She got in, started the engine, and drove away without turning on her headlights until she reached the street. David remained in the pharmacy lot for another minute, the cold settling into his coat. He looked at the folded maintenance schedule again, then at the dark road leading back toward the airport. Somewhere inside that massive building, a file was waiting to be erased. Somewhere in Denver, Marcus Williams was waiting for his sister. And somewhere between those two truths stood a janitor, a doctor, a software engineer, and one lie too large to stay hidden much longer. Thomas Reed had always trusted systems more than people. Systems had rules. They left logs. They failed in patterns. People changed stories, forgot details, looked away when things became inconvenient. A server might crash, a drive might corrupt, a sync might fail. But somewhere, if you knew where to look and had enough patience, a system usually told the truth about what had happened to it. That was what Thomas told himself at 1:14 inches the morning, as he sat at his dining table in Decatur, with two laptops open, a legal pad beside his elbow, and a mug of coffee gone cold enough to form a skin across the surface. His apartment was quiet except for the low hum of the refrigerator and the occasional traffic on the street below. On the wall across from him was a framed photograph of his daughter in her college sweatshirt, smiling in front of a dorm building with autumn leaves behind her. Beside it was a picture of his mother on her 78th birthday, sitting in her assisted living room with a paper crown on her head, laughing because Thomas's sister had bought trick candles and nearly set off the smoke alarm. He had been supposed to be in Phoenix by now, sitting at his sister's kitchen counter, peeling sweet potatoes while she complained that he cut them too thick. Instead, his phone was in the possession of airport security. A woman he did not know was being called a violent attacker on the evening news, and every trace of the video he had recorded seemed to be disappearing one layer at a time. He logged into his cloud account again, though he already knew what he would find. The video folder was empty. The trash folder was empty. Recent activity showed the same foreign login from earlier in the evening, followed by a remote deletion event. Whoever had entered had not browsed his family photos, had not opened old tax documents, had not done anything messy or curious. They had gone straight to the most recent video, deleted it, and cleared the recovery folder. That kind of precision made Thomas angrier than carelessness would have. He opened a screen recording tool on his laptop and began documenting every step. Time, 1:17 a.m., he said aloud, because if this ever became evidence, he wanted no one to accuse him of cleaning it up after the fact. Account activity page shows unauthorized access at 5:03 p.m. yesterday. IP address logged. Device type, unknown. File deletion occurred at 5:07 p.m. Recovery purge at 5:09 p.m. I did not authorize either action. His voice sounded too calm in the empty room. That bothered him. He did not feel calm. He felt violated in a way he had not expected. It was one thing for a security supervisor to take a phone from his hand under threat of detainment. That had been frightening, yes, but physical, immediate, understandable. This was different. This was someone reaching invisibly into his private life and removing the part of his memory that mattered most. He thought of Maya standing with her hands raised. He thought of the medical pass in her hand. He thought of her saying, "My brother is dying." He thought of himself handing over the phone. "No," he said quietly. "Not all of it." He started with the laptop cache, then the browser cache, then the sync database. The files were not there as files, not cleanly, but systems were lazy in helpful ways. They made previews, temporary thumbnails, index entries, partial references, metadata stored in places ordinary deletion did not always reach. At 2:06, he found the first trace, a file name generated by his phone camera app, time-stamped within seconds of the incident. At 2:23, he found the associated file size, large enough to match a full-length video, not a photo. At 2:41, he recovered a thumbnail so small and grainy it looked useless until he enlarged it and froze. There was Travis Cole, one boot extended toward Maya Williams. Thomas stopped breathing for a second. The image was not enough to win a case. It was blurred, low resolution, and missing sound. But it proved a video had existed at the exact moment Cole had made contact first. It proved the file had not been invented afterward. It proved something had been erased. He called David Harper. The attorney answered on the fourth ring, voice low and alert. "Thomas, I found a thumbnail." "Of what?" "Cole's boot making contact. It's not clear enough by itself, but it's there. The metadata is there too. File name, timestamp, size, deletion activity, unauthorized login. I'm recording my process." "Good. Don't send anything from your primary account. I'll have a secure link to you in 10 minutes. Thomas rubbed his eyes. "Mr. Harper, whoever did this knew exactly what to remove." "Yes, that means they know the video hurts them." "It does. And if they could reach my cloud account, they may try again. Disconnect that laptop from the internet after you receive the link. Save copies to 2 external drives if you have them. I have 3. For the first time that night, David almost sounded amused. "Of course you do." Thomas looked at his daughter's picture on the wall. "I keep thinking I should have refused to give them the phone. You were threatened in an airport by people who knew how to make fear sound official. That is not the same as consent." Thomas was quiet for a moment. "She kept saying she needed to get to Denver." "I know. Is her brother still alive?" The pause on the line was brief, but Thomas heard it. "Yes," David said. "But time matters." Thomas looked back at the thumbnail, at the small, frozen proof of a boot and a body, and a lie beginning to form around them. Then, "I'll keep going." At the airport, 3 miles of corridors away from any passenger gate, Captain Richard Harlan stood in a small operations room lit by computer monitors and vending machine glow. The man from technical services sat at a workstation, his fingers moving too quickly for someone who wanted to appear relaxed. "Cloud copy was removed," the technician said. "Was it viewed?" "Not from the device we accessed." "That wasn't my question." The technician hesitated. "There may be cached artifacts on synced devices. Depends how sophisticated the user is." Harlan's expression did not change. "Find out. I can't access his personal devices without..." Harlan turned his head slowly. The technician stopped. Travis Cole sat in the corner without his neck brace. It rested on the table beside a half-empty bottle of water. Without cameras nearby, he looked less injured than irritated. "This is getting too big." Harlan did not look at him. "It got big because you kicked her in front of a crowd and then let her stay on her feet." Cole's face reddened. "You told me to clear her. I told you to solve a problem. I did not tell you to create 6 more. She was standing right in the lane. And now the city is watching you cry in a wheelchair. So keep crying." Harlan stepped closer, lowering his voice. "The only reason anyone is still talking about your neck is because we gave them your neck before they got her story. Do not forget that." Cole looked toward the door. "What about the cleaning woman?" Harlan's eyes shifted to one of the monitors showing a hallway camera. Lena Ortiz appeared in the frame, pushing her cart slowly past a row of employee lockers. She heard something, Cole said. She hears many things, Harlan replied. People like her survive by knowing when not to repeat them. And if she does? Harlan watched Lena disappear from the frame. Then she becomes unreliable. Cole said nothing more. Just before dawn, Lena stood in a women's restroom near Concourse T, gripping the edge of a sink with both hands. The fluorescent light made everyone look sick, but she knew her own face well enough to see fear plainly. She had heard enough in the past 12 hours to understand the shape of the danger. Camera maintenance moved up. Thomas Reed's phone secured. Cloud backup checked. Harlan asking questions about her shift. She splashed water on her face and dried it with a brown paper towel. Her youngest son, now 23 and working nights at a warehouse, had texted her an hour earlier. "You good, Ma?" She had typed back. "Always." It was what mothers said when they were not sure. In the mirror, she looked like what the airport expected her to be. Tired, invisible, harmless. That might still be enough to save the truth. At 6:30 inches the morning, the airport issued an internal notice. Routine maintenance on selected security camera archives would begin at 4:30 the following morning. All affected departments were instructed that access might be temporarily limited. David received a copy from Lena 5 minutes later. He was sitting at Mrs. Price's kitchen table with Maya across from him, both of them surrounded by coffee cups, legal pads, and printed medical records from Denver. Maya had been awake nearly all night, first in a surgical conference, then reviewing Marcus's imaging, then sitting in silence while her mother cried quietly on speakerphone after the doctors explained the risk of waiting another day. David read the notice twice. Maya watched his face. "That's bad. That's deliberate. Can you stop it? I can file an emergency preservation demand." "Will that stop Harlan?" David folded the paper once. "It will create a record that he was warned." Maya leaned back in her chair and touched the worn cloth band around her wrist. Control, courage, mercy. The words did not make her less tired. They only reminded her what kind of tired she was allowed to become. Her phone buzzed with a message from Evelyn. "Marcus is asking for you. I told him you're fighting your way here." Maya stared at the words until they blurred. David's phone rang. "Thomas Reed." David put it on speaker. "I found proof the video existed," Thomas said. "And proof someone deleted it. Not the whole video yet, but enough to show they tampered with it." Maya closed her eyes. David said, "Can you testify to that?" "Yes. Can you explain it to a judge who still prints his emails?" Thomas paused. "Probably better than I can explain it to my sister." Mrs. Price, standing at the stove, said, "Then he'll do." For one brief second, the kitchen breathed. Then Maya looked at David. "But it still doesn't show why they needed me gone." David looked at the camera maintenance notice on the table. "No," he said. "That part is still inside the airport. Across the city." Lena Ortiz pushed her cart down a service hallway and passed beneath camera C-17 without looking up. In her pocket was a folded maintenance schedule. In her mind was the layout of the auxiliary server room, the one hardly anyone used unless something had gone wrong. By sunrise, she had made her decision. She was done waiting for powerful men to decide whether the truth deserved to survive. Lena Ortiz began her shift at 9 p.m. with the same gray cart, the same rubber gloves, and the same expression she had worn for 11 years when walking into places where people with better shoes assumed she did not matter. That was the first thing she had learned about being invisible. You could not look like you were hiding. You had to look like you were working. You had to move with the slow, practiced fatigue of someone whose back hurt, whose knees complained, whose paycheck depended on getting through the night without being noticed by anyone important. So Lena did what she always did. She changed trash liners near gate T6. She wiped fingerprints from the stainless steel doors of the family restroom. She picked up a half-eaten cinnamon roll someone had left under a row of seats. She nodded to a Delta Gate agent she had known for years. She told an older couple from Macon that baggage claim was down the escalator and to the left. She refilled paper towels. She mopped a coffee spill outside a Hudson News while a businessman stepped around the wet floor sign like it had personally offended him. All ordinary things. All exactly as expected. But in the pocket inside her work jacket, folded into quarters, was the maintenance schedule showing that camera C17 and the service corridor archives would be wiped at 4:30 a.m. At 11:12, she passed the medical priority lane. The ropes were back in place. The floor had been polished. Travelers stood where Maya Williams had stood, holding papers, boarding passes, prescriptions, wheelchairs, canes, and quiet reasons for needing a little help. Nothing about the lane looked haunted. That was the terrible thing about public places. They swallowed what happened inside them and kept moving. Lena slowed just enough to glance down. The medical pass was gone now. Someone had finally taken it. Maybe evidence. Maybe trash. In Lena's mind, she still saw it there, bent at one corner, ignored while a woman begged to call a hospital. She pushed her cart toward the service corridor. A voice behind her said, "Lena." She turned without flinching. Flinching told people they had caught you thinking. Captain Richard Harlan stood near the employee access door, coffee in one hand, his badge clipped at his belt instead of his chest. He looked rested. Men like him often did when everyone else was losing sleep. "Evening, Captain," Lena said. "You working tea tonight?" "Yes, sir. Thought you were usually on B concourse Thursdays. Marisol's daughter has the flu." I switched. He smiled slightly. "You're always helping somebody. That's what they tell me." His eyes stayed on her face a little too long. "Busy night yesterday. Thanksgiving week always is. Must have seen quite a bit." Lena lifted one shoulder. "I see trash mostly." Harlan's smile did not change, but the air around it did. "That's good. Best not to see too much in a place like this. People misunderstand things." "Yes, sir." He stepped closer, lowering his voice into something almost friendly. "You've got good years here, Lena. Benefits. Retirement coming someday. I'd hate for you to get pulled into something that has nothing to do with you." Her hand tightened on the cart handle, but only for a moment. "I'm just here to clean floors." "That's right," Harlan said. "Smart woman." He walked away through the employee door, and Lena stood still until it clicked shut behind him. Then she moved. Not faster. Never faster. She rolled the cart down the corridor, past the vending machines, past the break room where two baggage handlers were arguing about the Falcons, past a bulletin board with faded notices about safety, compliance, and holiday scheduling. She stopped at a supply closet, unlocked it, and stepped inside. Only then did she let herself breathe. Her phone buzzed. A text from David Harper. "Do not take unnecessary risks. If anything feels wrong, leave." Lena looked at the message, then at the shelves of paper towels and cleaning solution in front of her. "Too late for that," she whispered. She texted back, "If I don't send something by 4:15, assume they got to it first." David replied almost immediately, "Assume I will not like that answer." For the first time that night, Lena almost smiled. At 2:40 a.m., the airport changed character. The loud crowds thinned. Families slept across gate seats with backpacks as pillows. Workers in orange vests drove carts through long corridors. Cleaning crews became more visible because fewer passengers were around to pretend they were not. In the service areas, the building belonged to employees, cameras, locked doors, and men like Harlan who knew how to use all three. Lena waited until 3:18. That was when the supervisor for her zone usually took his smoke break near the loading dock. Though the airport had signs everywhere saying smoking was prohibited, he always took 8 minutes, sometimes 9 if he was texting his girlfriend. She pushed her cart toward the auxiliary server room with a mop bucket that did not need to be there and a clipboard with 3 work orders clipped to it. The first rule of entering somewhere you did not belong was to carry paper. People trusted paper. Paper made wrongdoing look scheduled. The auxiliary server room sat at the end of a narrow hall behind a door marked Mechanical Systems Support. Most employees walked past it for years without knowing what it held. Lena knew because a pipe had burst there 6 winters ago, and she had spent 4 hours mopping water from under raised floor panels while 2 technicians cursed at blinking racks of equipment. Her badge opened the first door. It should not have. That meant either no one had thought to remove cleaning access, or God had decided to be practical tonight. Inside, the air was cold and loud. Server fans hummed in steady layers. Small green and amber lights blinked in rows. The room smelled like dust, plastic, and chilled metal. Lena closed the door behind her and stood still for 2 seconds, listening. No footsteps. She moved to the maintenance workstation in the corner. The login screen glowed blue. Her fingers felt thick in the gloves, so she pulled one off with her teeth and laid it beside the keyboard. She did not know computers the way Thomas Reed did. She could not code. She could not recover deleted cloud files. But she knew this system because she had watched technicians use it. She knew which menu led to corridor archives. She knew camera C17 because she had cleaned beneath it for years. She knew where the export function was because one bored night, a young technician named Aaron had shown her how to pull footage after a passenger slipped near a restroom and threatened to sue. "You remember weird things," her husband used to say. "Only the useful ones," she would answer. She inserted the USB drive. The system took too long to recognize it. "Come on," she breathed. A window opened. She selected camera C17. Date, time, priority lane incident, 15 minutes before, 20 minutes after, audio track included. Export. The progress bar appeared. Passenger S. Lena stared at the door. Passenger Joe. Somewhere outside, a cart rolled past. She froze, hand hovering above the keyboard. The sound faded. Passenger Shati. At Mrs. Price's kitchen table, David Harper sat fully dressed with his phone beside a stack of motions. Maya was on the couch in the living room, not sleeping, though her eyes were closed. The television was off. Mrs. Price had gone to bed after making them both promise not to leave coffee rings on her table. Maya's phone rested on her chest. Every time it buzzed, her hand moved before her eyes opened. Denver had called at midnight. Marcus was stable, but only because machines and medication were doing the work his body no longer could. The surgeon wanted a final decision within the next day. Maya had given medical input over a secure line, but everyone knew it was not the same as being there. David looked at his own phone again. No message from Lena. Back in the server room, the progress bar reached 38%. Then the hallway outside filled with voices. Lena's heart kicked once. Hard. 2 men stopped near the door. One laughed. The other said, "Harlan wants the archive cleared before shift change." "How much?" C17. C22. Service West. Anything tagged from yesterday afternoon. Lena looked at the screen. Passenger Cicerlo. The first man said, "Why not just wipe it now?" "Because the system logs early deletion. Maintenance window gives cover." "Man, I don't ask questions. You should keep that habit." Their footsteps moved away. Lena let out a breath so slowly it hurt. Passenger Wushar. At 61%, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She did not touch it. At 74%, the screen flickered. For one terrible second, she thought the system had frozen. Then the progress bar continued. Passenger Bashayi. Lena whispered a prayer she had not said since her husband was in the hospital. "Lord, I am not asking you to make it easy. Just don't let me be useless." Passenger Joshasen. The door handle moved. Lena snatched the glove from the desk, shoved it halfway onto her hand, and grabbed the mop handle just as the door opened. A maintenance worker stood there, surprised. Young, maybe 30, beard trimmed close, lunch bag in one hand. "What are you doing in here?" Lena did not look at the screen. "Water spots under the vent." Supervisor said check before maintenance starts. He frowned. "In the server room? You want to call him and ask? Because if he comes down here and sees I didn't check, he'll write me up. If he comes down here and sees you stopping me, maybe he writes you up too. I'm too tired for both." The man blinked. Working people understood the threat of being blamed for something stupid. He glanced at the floor, saw nothing, and shrugged. "Just don't touch anything. I clean around important things every night, baby. That's the job." He left. The door closed. Lena looked at the screen. Export complete. For a moment, she could not move. The USB drive sat in the port, small and ordinary, holding enough truth to ruin powerful men. She ejected it properly because Aaron, the technician, had once told her never to just pull a drive unless she wanted to corrupt the file. Then she slipped it into a sealed packet of dry mop pads on her cart, buried beneath 3 others. She logged out, wiped the keyboard with a cloth, and left the room pushing the cart at exactly the same tired speed she had entered with. At 4:07, David's phone buzzed. "Lena, I have it." David closed his eyes. Maya opened hers from the couch. "Is it her?" "Yes." "Does she have the footage?" David read the message again, as if the words might change. "She says she does." Maya sat up slowly. In the dim light of Mrs. Price's living room, the cloth band around her wrist looked almost black. For a second, neither of them spoke. Relief would have been too early. Celebration would have been foolish. Harlan still existed. Cole still had cameras. Marcus was still in Denver. And a USB drive still had to travel from an airport full of people who needed it gone. Maya looked toward the dark window. "Tell her to be careful," she said. David typed the message. At the airport, Lena's cart rolled past camera C-17 one last time before the maintenance window began. She did not look up. She did not smile. She did not hurry. In her cart, beneath paper and cloth and the tools of invisible work, the truth left the corridor that was built to hide it. The first hearing began on a gray morning that made Atlanta look older than it was. Rain had moved through before sunrise, leaving the courthouse steps damp and dark, the flag above the entrance hanging heavy in the still air. People gathered anyway. Some came because they had seen the news and wanted to support Officer Travis Cole. Others came because they had watched enough of the story to know something about it did not sit right. And some came because, in certain communities, when a black woman was dragged into court after saying she had been kicked first, people understood that the building itself could become another kind of checkpoint. They arrived in church coats, pressed slacks, sensible shoes, hats pinned carefully against the weather. Older women stood together near the courthouse rail, talking in low voices the way they might outside a sanctuary after Sunday service. A retired bus driver from Decatur held a paper cup of coffee in both hands and told anyone who would listen, "I don't know that young lady, but I know a setup when I see one." Across the walkway, 3 men in police union jackets stood with their arms folded, faces set hard for the cameras. Maya saw all of it from the back seat of David Harper's sedan. She had slept less than 2 hours. Marcus's surgical team had called again at 5:30 a.m. His numbers were not collapsing, but they were not improving either. The lead surgeon had used the phrase, "narrowing window," in the careful voice of a man who knew families remembered phrases forever. Maya had reviewed scans on Mrs. Price's kitchen table with a cup of coffee going cold beside her and the cloth band around her wrist pressed against the edge of the laptop. Control, courage, mercy. Now she sat outside the courthouse, wearing the same navy blazer she had worn to residency interviews, because it was the only one that still made her feel like a doctor instead of a defendant. David turned off the engine, but did not open his door yet. "We are not going to win everything today." Maya looked at him. "That's how you start a pep talk?" "That is how I keep clients from mistaking a first hearing for justice." She almost smiled. "Almost," he continued. "Today we argue for release conditions that allow you to travel for Marcus. We challenge the state's framing. We put on enough evidence to show this is not what Cole says it is. But without the full video from Thomas or the corridor footage authenticated, the court may not dismiss anything yet. Lena has the USB. She has it. That does not mean I can use it today. Why not? Because if I introduce it before we secure her, before Thomas verifies the file structure, before we copy and preserve chain of custody, Harlan gets time to attack it, attack her, or make the rest disappear. Sometimes evidence has to survive before it can speak." Maya turned toward the courthouse. "My brother may not have time for careful." David's voice softened. "I know. No, Mr. Harper. You know legally. I know what his oxygen saturation means. I know what the inflammation markers mean. I know what it means that they called before breakfast and did not wait for rounds." She swallowed. "If I sit in there today and they tell me I can't go to Denver, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that." David was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "You stand up when I tell you to stand. You answer only what I ask you to answer, and you let me carry the legal weight for the next few hours." Maya looked down at her hands. "What about the rest of it? That is why your mother keeps calling. That is why Master Cho gave you that band. That is why Mrs. Price packed food you will pretend not to need. Maya looked at the paper bag on the seat between them. Mrs. Price had filled it with a turkey sandwich, an apple, 2 napkins, and a slice of pound cake wrapped in foil. On the outside she had written, "Eat before you fall over." This time Maya did smile, but it did not last. They entered through the front doors together. Inside, the courthouse smelled like wet coats, old paper, floor wax, and vending machine coffee. Reporters lined the hallway. Camera lights rose when Maya appeared. Questions came at once, not as questions but as thrown objects. "Dr. Williams, did you use excessive force? Are you trained in combat sports? Do you regret kicking Officer Cole? Why were you in the priority lane?" David stepped slightly ahead of her. No comment. Maya kept walking. She did not lower her head. That took effort. There was a particular exhaustion in being expected to appear both innocent and unthreatening at the same time. Too much confidence looked arrogant. Too much fear looked guilty. Too much anger looked dangerous. She held her face still and thought of hospital corridors, of Marcus asking nurses if his sister was still bossing people around. The courtroom was already half full. Cole arrived 10 minutes later. The room changed when he entered. 2 officers pushed him in a wheelchair. The white neck brace was back. A folded blanket covered his lap. He moved one hand slowly, carefully, as if even the air pained him. A few people murmured with sympathy. One woman near the front wiped her eyes. The police union men nodded solemnly, as though witnessing a wounded soldier returned from battle. Maya stared at him for 1 second too long. David leaned close. "Don't give them your face." She looked down at the table. Captain Harlan entered through the side aisle and sat behind the prosecution. He wore a dark suit instead of uniform, which somehow made him look more dangerous. He did not glance at Maya. He did not need to. His calm was a message all by itself. Ada, Brooke Ellison, stood when the judge took the bench. She was composed, efficient, and polished, with the kind of courtroom voice that made accusations sound like civic duty. "Your Honor," she began, "the state is dealing with a serious assault in a sensitive airport security area. The defendant is not an ordinary traveler who panicked. She is a trained martial artist with the ability to use her body as a weapon. Officer Cole was performing his duty when she delivered a targeted strike that put him on the ground." David rose slowly. "Your Honor, the state's description omits the fact that Officer Cole used force first against a woman holding a valid medical priority pass while she was attempting to reach her critically ill brother in Denver." Ellison turned. "That allegation remains disputed." David looked at Cole's wheelchair, then back to the judge. "Only because Officer Cole has been allowed to dispute what witnesses saw." The judge, a narrow-faced man named Harold Whitcomb, peered over his glasses. "Mr. Harper, argument later. Evidence now." David presented what he could. The medical priority pass, Maya's boarding documents, the hospital letter confirming Marcus's critical condition and Maya's role in the surgical consultation, 2 written statements from travelers who had seen Cole initiate contact, Thomas Reed's sworn statement saying he recorded the event from the first threat, along with preliminary technical notes showing unauthorized access and deletion activity connected to his cloud account. Ellison objected to the technical notes. Speculative, unauthenticated, and unsupported by the original device. "The original device was taken by airport security," David said, "under a lawful security concern, conveniently before it could be preserved." The judge held up a hand. "Enough. I'll allow limited reference to the statement, not the technical conclusions at this stage." Maya felt David's frustration without seeing it. Then Ellison called her first witness for the limited hearing, a man introduced as Martin Kessler, a defensive tactics consultant. He had a shaved head, a square jaw, and a resume full of police training seminars. He spoke with the confidence of someone who had turned opinion into an hourly rate. Kessler described Maya's kick as deliberate, trained, and capable of causing severe structural damage if applied with intent. David cross-examined him. "Mr. Kessler, did you view video of Officer Cole's initial contact with Dr. Williams?" "I reviewed the segment provided to me. That was not my question." "No, I did not view earlier footage." "Did you know Officer Cole kicked her first?" I'm aware that is alleged. Did you know Dr. Williams stepped back immediately afterward and raised her hands? I was focused on the strike mechanics. The mechanics, not the context. Kessler shifted. Context does not change the potential danger of a trained kick. David paused. Does context change whether an action is self-defense? The courtroom went quiet. Kessler said, "That is a legal question." "Yes," David replied. "And that is why you should not pretend your mechanics answer it." A few people in the gallery murmured. Judge Whitcomb gave them a warning look. Despite that moment, the hearing did not break their way. The judge reduced some restrictions but refused to dismiss the matter. Maya would be allowed supervised medical consultation by video, but travel to Denver required additional review. The charges would proceed pending further evidentiary hearing. Maya heard the words as if from underwater. Additional review. Marcus did not have a legal calendar. His body did not care about motions, authentication, or careful procedure. She stood when David touched her arm, walked when he guided her, and did not realize she was shaking until they reached the hallway. Her phone buzzed. A message from Evelyn. "Call me as soon as you can. Surgeon says today matters." Maya leaned against the courthouse wall. Captain Harlan passed behind them slowly enough for only David and Maya to hear him. "Your client should have taken the deal." David turned, but Harlan was already walking away, smooth and untouched. Maya watched him disappear into the crowd. Her fear did not leave. Her anger did not either. But beneath both of them, something steadier began to form. From across the hallway, a text arrived on David's phone. "Lena, I have it, but they know." David did not answer Lena's text in the courthouse hallway. He read it once, then again, and slid the phone into his coat pocket with the careful calm of a man putting away a match in a room full of gasoline. Maya saw the movement. She saw his face, too. David Harper did not scare easily, but something in his eyes had tightened. "What is it?" she asked. "Not here." That was Lena. "Yes." "She has the video?" "Yes." Maya straightened from the wall. The courthouse noise moved around them. Reporters calling after attorneys, families waiting on benches, deputies guiding people toward elevators, shoes squeaking over polished stone still damp from the rain outside. It was a public place, but Maya had learned in the last 24 hours that public did not mean safe. David stepped closer and lowered his voice. "She says they know." Maya's hand went to the cloth band around her wrist. "Know what?" "That she copied something. Maybe not exactly what, but enough. Then we have to get her. We will. My brother. I know." "No." Her voice sharpened. Then she pulled it back before the hallway could make a spectacle of it. "Mr. Harper, you keep saying you know, but every time someone says wait, review, procedure, authentication, it costs Marcus time. They just told me I can consult by video, like I'm a guest speaker at a conference. He needs me there." David looked down the hall toward the elevators. Captain Harlan had disappeared into the crowd, but his words remained behind him like smoke. "Your client should have taken the deal. I'm going to file an emergency motion for travel today," David said. "We'll attach the hospital letter, the surgical notes, the judge's own finding that medical consultation is relevant. But you need to prepare yourself. The state is going to use Denver as leverage." Maya stared at him. They wouldn't. They already are. The truth of that settled between them. In the parking garage beneath the courthouse, Maya sat in David's sedan while he made calls from outside the car. She could see him through the rain-speckled windshield, one hand holding the phone, the other tucked into his coat pocket. He spoke with the controlled intensity of someone trying not to sound desperate to people who respected desperation less than paperwork. Maya's phone rang. "Evelyn." She answered with a breath instead of a word. "Maya." Her mother's voice sounded smaller than it had that morning. Hospital rooms did that to people. They reduced even strong women to voices trying to stay steady beside machines. "I'm here." "What happened?" They didn't dismiss it. Evelyn was quiet. "They're still deciding whether I can leave Georgia," Maya said. "Still deciding." "I'm sorry. Don't apologize for somebody else holding a door shut." Maya closed her eyes. That was Evelyn. Tired, terrified, and still able to place blame where it belonged. "How is he?" The surgeon came back. They can keep him stable a little longer, but not long enough to pretend this can wait. He said the next decision has to be made by tonight or tomorrow morning. Evelyn paused, and when she spoke again, the mother in her had to push through the fear. He asked for you. Maya pressed the phone hard against her ear. Can I talk to him? He's sleeping now. They don't want to wake him unless they have to. Wake him. Maya, please. There was a long silence from Denver. Then Evelyn said softly, Baby, if I wake him, he'll try to sound fine for you. You know he will. Let him keep the little strength he has. Maya bent forward until her forehead nearly touched the dashboard. I should be there, she whispered. Yes, Evelyn said. No comfort, no lie, just yes. When the call ended, David got back into the car. He did not start the engine. The prosecutor's office wants to talk resolution, he said. Maya turned her head slowly. Resolution. That's the word they used. What does that mean? It means they know the case is more complicated than the press conference suggested, but they still want a conviction on paper. What are they offering? I don't know yet, but I can guess. The guess arrived an hour later in a conference room at the district attorney's office. A beige square of a room with a long table, 6 chairs, and a framed photograph of the county courthouse on the wall. Ada Brooke Ellison sat across from Maya and David with a folder in front of her and a legal pad aligned perfectly beside it. She looked less certain than she had in court, though she had not yet allowed that uncertainty to become humility. Dr. Williams, Ellison began. I understand this is a difficult situation. Maya almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the sentence was so small compared to the thing it was trying to hold. Ellison continued. The state is prepared to consider a reduced charge. Disorderly conduct. No jail time. Fine. Probationary period. Anger management component. We would not oppose a travel allowance for medical necessity once the plea is entered. David leaned back slowly. There it is. Ellison looked at him. Mr. Harper, this is a generous offer given the circumstances. The circumstances being that your complaining witness kicked my client first, faked an injury, and participated in the disappearance of evidence? That is not established. It is not established because the airport took the phone and your office is pretending not to notice. Ellison's jaw tightened. Careful. David's voice remained quiet. I am being careful. That is why you are hearing this in a conference room instead of in front of cameras. Maya had not spoken. She was looking at the plea sheet Ellison had slid across the table. The words blurred and sharpened. Disorderly conduct. Admission of guilt. Waiver of certain claims. No jail time. Permission to travel upon entry. Permission to travel. There it was. The hook beneath the bait. If I sign this, Maya said, I can go to Denver? Ellison softened her expression. We would move quickly. How quickly? Today, possibly. Maya's hand moved toward the paper. David did not touch her. He only said her name. Maya. She looked at him. He spoke gently, but there was steel under it. If you plead guilty, the official record says you were the problem in that airport. It says Officer Cole's first clean win is your own signature. It gives the hospital boards, licensing committees, insurance carriers, and every future employer a document they can use against you. It also makes every decision you advise on for Marcus easier to challenge by anyone who wants to question your judgment. Ellison said, That is overstated. David turned to her. No. It is inconvenient. Maya looked back at the paper. She imagined signing it, taking the next flight, running into Children's Hospital Denver with a conviction following behind her like a shadow. She imagined standing beside Marcus's bed, while someone in administration whispered that Dr. Williams had just admitted to assault-related misconduct. She imagined Cole watching the news from his wheelchair, Harlan smiling somewhere behind him, the silver suitcase gone, Thomas's video erased, Lena alone with the truth and no protection. But she also imagined Marcus asking where she was. That was the cruelest part. Not the charge, not the cameras. The choice. Ellison folded her hands. Dr. Williams, I don't want to see this derail your life. A plea gives everyone a way to move forward. Maya finally looked at her fully. Everyone. Ellison did not answer. My brother is in Denver, Maya said. His doctors need me. You know that. Officer Cole knew that when he kicked me. Captain Harlan knew it when they held me in that room and silenced my phone. Now you're telling me I can reach him faster if I agree to be the liar in their story. Ellison's eyes flickered. Maya pushed the paper back across the table. No. The word did not come out loud. It did not need to. David closed his briefcase. Ellison sat very still. You understand the risk? Maya stood. I understand that justice is not fair just because it wears a suit. For once, Brooke Ellison had no ready answer. That evening, Maya returned to Cho Taekwondo Academy. She did not tell David until after she was already there, because she did not want another discussion about strategy, danger, or timing. She needed a floor that remembered her. She needed a room where her body was not evidence, but history. Master Cho was sweeping the mat when she walked in. No deal? He asked without turning. Maya stopped. How did you know? You have the face of someone who chose pain with her eyes open. She took off her shoes and stepped onto the mat. They said I could get to Denver faster if I pled guilty. He leaned on the broom. A very old trick. Put water in front of a thirsty person and call it mercy. Maya stood in the center of the floor. What if I made the wrong choice? Then you will correct it. But tell me first, what did they ask you to say? That I was guilty. And are you? No. Then the wrong choice was not refusing. She looked at the mirror. In it, she saw the bruise of exhaustion beneath her eyes, the navy blazer, the cloth band at her wrist. Control, courage, mercy. The words felt less like comfort now, and more like instruction. My brother may not have until the law becomes honest, she said. Master Cho set the broom aside. The law is not a person. It does not become honest. People inside it do. Or they don't. Maya thought of David, Thomas, Lena, the woman in the church hat who had given her a peppermint, Mrs. Price with her pound cake, her mother beside Marcus's bed. I'm tired, she said. I know. I'm scared. I know. I want to be in Denver more than I want to be brave. Master Cho walked closer. Good. Bravery that does not cost anything is just a performance. Her phone buzzed before she could answer. A message from David. Lena is moving. Thomas is ready to authenticate what he has. We may have one shot soon. Then another message came from Evelyn. Marcus woke up. He asked if you were still bossing people around. I told him yes. Maya read the message twice. Then she typed back, tell him I said not to start surgery without me bossing everyone first. The reply came a moment later. He smiled. Maya pressed the phone to her chest. Master Cho watched her. Still no deal? Maya looked up. No deal. He nodded once, as if she had completed a form correctly. Then breathe. Tomorrow will ask for more than today. Later, outside the dojang, Maya sat in her car under the dim parking lot lights and called David. I meant what I said, she told him. No plea. I know. And I need emergency permission to travel. I filed again, with updated medical urgency. I also have Thomas's preliminary affidavit going in. What about Lena? A pause. She has the footage. But getting it to us safely is the next problem. Maya looked through the windshield at the dark strip mall, at ordinary storefronts closing for the night, at people carrying takeout bags to their cars, at a world still moving while Marcus waited. Then solve it, she said. David's voice softened. I intend to. When she hung up, Maya did not start the car right away. She sat there with both hands on the wheel, the same way she had before going into the dojang. But something was different now. The fear was still there. The urgency, too. The ache of being away from Marcus had not eased. Still, the lie had asked her to kneel, and she had not. Lena Ortiz did not drive straight to David Harper's office. That would have been the first place Harlan expected her to go. She knew that, without needing a law degree or police training, men like Harlan believed ordinary people became predictable under pressure. They ran home. They called family. They went to the one person who had promised help. Lena had survived too much of life by doing the thing nobody expected from a woman pushing a janitor's cart. So she left the airport after her shift, drove south for 7 minutes, turned into the parking lot of a Waffle House, and parked beneath a light that flickered like it had been arguing with itself for years. Her hand stayed on the steering wheel. The USB drive was inside a sealed packet of dry mop pads on the passenger seat, beneath a folded safety vest and a roll of trash bags. For 3 minutes, she did nothing except watch the mirror. A black SUV passed the entrance once. Then again, Lena's throat tightened. She did not start the engine. She took out her phone and called a woman named Bernice Carter, who lived 2 streets from her church and had been giving rides to half the neighborhood since 1998. Bernice answered like she had been awake all night, waiting for trouble to find someone she loved. "Lena, I need a favor." "How bad?" "The kind where you don't ask me questions until next Sunday." Bernice paused only long enough to breathe. "Where are you?" 20 minutes later, Lena walked into the Waffle House, carrying only her purse. She ordered coffee she did not want and sat at the counter beside a truck driver eating eggs and grits. Through the window, she watched Bernice pull into the lot in a beige Buick older than some of the TSA agents at the airport. Bernice did not look toward Lena's Toyota. She parked near the dumpster, got out slowly, and went inside like a woman coming for breakfast. "You look terrible," Bernice said, sitting beside her. "You always were sweet." "I'm 71. I don't have time to lie for free." Lena slid her car keys across the counter beneath a napkin. "There's a packet on the passenger seat. Dry mop pads. Take it. Don't open it. Drive to Greater Hope Baptist, park by the Fellowship Hall, and wait for a man named David Harper." Bernice stirred sugar into coffee. "Police?" "Worse. Airport police." Bernice stopped stirring. Then she nodded. "Your mama used to say you'd either save somebody one day or give yourself ulcers trying." She was usually right. Bernice patted Lena's hand once, took the keys, and left without another word. Lena waited 10 minutes before she paid for the coffee. The black SUV rolled past again as she stepped outside. This time she let herself be seen. She got into her Toyota and drove home with nothing worth finding in the car. Across town, David Harper received Bernice Carter in the Fellowship Hall of Greater Hope Baptist Church at 6:42 inches the morning. He had chosen the church because it had 3 exits, a security camera system installed after copper thieves hit the air conditioning units in 2016, and a pastor who had once testified in a voting rights case and understood that sometimes righteousness needed a parking plan. Bernice handed him the sealed packet. "You, Mr. Harper?" "Yes, ma'am." Lena said not to open it unless you were alone. "I told her if it was drugs, I was going to haunt her." Despite the pressure in his chest, David smiled. "It's not drugs." "Good. I'm Baptist. We prefer our scandals covered in casseroles." David thanked her, walked into a small classroom off the fellowship hall, closed the door, and put on gloves before opening the packet. The USB drive fell into his palm. Small, black, ordinary, no heavier than a key, heavy enough to change the direction of a life. He called Thomas Reed first. "I need you at Greater Hope Baptist," David said. "Bring your equipment. Offline machines only." Thomas arrived 40 minutes later with a laptop bag over one shoulder, 2 external drives in his coat pocket, and the face of a man who had not slept, but had found purpose strong enough to replace sleep. He set up at a folding table under a bulletin board covered with Sunday school drawings of Noah's Ark. Maya arrived soon after, driven by Mrs. Price, who insisted on coming inside, because somebody with sense needs to make sure these men eat. Maya wore dark jeans, a cream sweater, and the cloth wristband from Master Cho. Her hair was pulled back, her eyes were tired, but clearer than they had been the day before. "Where's Lena?" Maya asked. "Safe for the moment," David said, "and not here by design." Maya looked at the USB on the table. "Is that it?" Thomas answered before David could. "We're about to find out." He connected the drive to an offline laptop and copied the contents to 2 external drives before opening anything. He narrated each step softly, habit and caution braided together. "Original device received sealed. Hashing file now. Creating duplicate image. No network connection. Timestamp logged." He looked up at Maya. "Sorry. Evidence brain." "Don't apologize," Maya said. "Please be careful with it." Thomas nodded. "I will." The file opened. For the first few seconds, the screen showed an empty service corridor in the airport. Fluorescent lights, gray walls, A rolling cart parked near a maintenance closet. The timestamp glowed in the corner. Then Travis Cole entered the frame. Maya's hands folded together on the table. Cole stood near the employee access door, one hand at his earpiece, his body angled toward the priority lane visible through the far opening. Another officer stood beside him, laughing at something. Cole pointed toward the lane. Thomas adjusted the volume. The audio crackled, then cleared just enough. "She's blocking the lane," Cole said. Maya stopped breathing. Cole lifted his foot in a mock kick. Not hard, not hurried, just enough to show the other officer what he intended. The other officer laughed. Then a voice came through Cole's radio, distorted but recognizable in tone. "Captain Harlan, clear that girl fast. The package is coming through." Mrs. Price, standing near the door with a paper bag of biscuits, whispered, "Lord have mercy." The video continued. A man in a dark airport jacket appeared at the edge of the corridor, one hand on the handle of a silver suitcase. Harlan stepped into frame. He did not look worried. He looked organized. "No scan," Harlan's voice said through the radio a moment later. "No delay. Move it before the next sweep." Maya pushed back from the table so abruptly, her chair scraped the floor. David looked at her. "Maya." She turned away, one hand pressed to her mouth. The room blurred, not because she was surprised anymore, but because proof had a strange cruelty to it. It comforted and wounded at the same time. The video proved she had not imagined the hurry in Cole's eyes. It proved Harlan's voice had been real. It proved her brother's emergency, her medical pass, her dignity, her body being shoved out of line. All of it had been treated as an obstacle to a suitcase. Thomas paused the video. "No," Maya said. David stood. "We can stop for a minute." "No." She turned back, eyes wet but steady. "Play it. All of it." Thomas looked at David. David nodded. The video continued. Cole left the corridor and headed toward the priority lane. The angle changed as the hallway camera caught part of the public area from a distance. The image was not as close as Thomas's missing phone video, but it was clear enough. Maya stood in the lane with her pass. Cole approached. He spoke. She held up her papers. He looked behind her. Then he kicked her. Mrs. Price sat down. No one said anything until the clip ended. Thomas began checking the file structure, metadata, embedded timestamps, and export logs. "This is strong," he said. "Very strong. It has system time, camera ID, audio track, export data. If Lena copied it cleanly, and if I can match it to the maintenance schedule and the deletion attempt, it's going to be hard to dismiss." "Hard is not impossible," David said. "No," Thomas replied, "but hard matters." Maya looked at the frozen final frame, where she could see herself being led toward the gray security door. She thought of her phone ringing in her coat. Children's Hospital, Denver. Marcus, waiting. Her mother trying to stay brave. Her own phone rang then, as if memory had called it. "Evelyn," Maya answered quickly. "Mama, they want the decision today," Evelyn said. Her voice was thin with exhaustion. "The surgeon said, if they move forward, it needs to be soon. If they wait too long, they may lose the option." Maya closed her eyes. "I understand. Are you coming?" Maya looked at David. He had already heard enough from her face. "I'm still trying." Evelyn did not cry this time. That frightened Maya more. "Then try fast, baby." When the call ended, Maya lowered the phone to the table. David gathered the printed notes, the copied drives, and his legal pad. "I'm filing this under emergency seal. I'll also notify the federal duty attorney that we may have evidence of obstruction and criminal activity inside airport security." Thomas looked at him. "Should we go public?" "Not yet." Maya's head snapped up. "Not yet? If we go public before the hearing, Harlan gets a chance to challenge authenticity in the media, threaten Lena, and muddy the timeline. In court, with proper foundation, it hits differently. My brother doesn't have time for differently." David's expression softened, but his answer stayed firm. "This is the fastest way that doesn't waste what Lena risked everything to get." Maya hated that he was probably right. The room fell quiet. Outside, someone was mowing the church lawn, the sound faint through the walls. It was such an ordinary noise, that it made the moment feel almost unbearable. Maya walked to the bulletin board and looked at the children's drawings pinned there. Blue water, brown boats, smiling animals in pairs, a child's version of survival, bright and simple. Behind her, Mrs. Price said, "Baby, when the storm is real, you don't curse the boat for being slow. You make sure it doesn't leak." Maya turned back. David's phone buzzed. A court clerk. The emergency hearing had been moved up. The state was pushing forward with expert testimony the next morning. David read the message and looked at the others. "They're trying to finish this before we can use it." Thomas closed the laptop. "Then, we'd better be ready." Maya returned to the table. She touched the cloth band at her wrist, then looked at the USB drive. For the first time, the truth was not only a memory, not only a witness, not only a stranger's missing phone. It was here, small enough to fit in a palm, strong enough, maybe, to open the door they had locked in her face. The courthouse felt different the next morning. It was not more crowded than it had been at the first hearing, but it carried a heavier silence, the kind that settled before a storm when everyone could feel pressure changing but no one could yet see the sky break. Reporters lined the hallway again. Police union members stood near the elevators in dark jackets. A few older women from the community sat together on the benches, hands folded over purses, dressed as if they had come from church because they had been raised to believe that when you entered a place of judgment, you brought your dignity with you whether the room deserved it or not. Maya walked between David Harper and Mrs. Price, her head high, her wristband hidden beneath the cuff of her blazer. She had chosen the navy blazer again. It reminded her of who she had been before the airport tried to rename her. Doctor, sister, daughter, researcher, woman who had a right to stand in a line. Her phone was in David's briefcase now, set to silent but not turned off. He had promised to watch for calls from Denver. That promise had cost him something. She could tell. Attorneys liked control, and nothing about a hospital call from another state could be controlled. "Marcus was stable when I spoke with Mama," Maya said, though David had not asked. "I know. They were moving him for another scan." "I know. She said he told one of the nurses I'm stubborn." David looked over at her. "He sounds perceptive." Maya almost smiled, but the courtroom doors opened before the expression could reach her face. Inside, Travis Cole was already waiting. He sat near the prosecution table in the same wheelchair, the same white neck brace wrapped around his throat. This time he had added a folded blanket over his knees. His hands rested on top of it, limp and theatrical. He looked toward Maya only once, then lowered his eyes as though the sight of her frightened him. The cameras could not enter the courtroom, but Cole performed anyway. Men like him did not need cameras to act. They only needed an audience. Captain Richard Harlan sat 2 rows behind the prosecution, in a charcoal suit, one ankle crossed over the other. His expression was so calm it seemed almost kind. Maya knew better now. She had seen the video. She had heard the voice. "Clear that girl fast. The package is coming through." The memory moved through her like cold water. David leaned close. "Do not look at Harlan. He's looking at me. That is why you do not look back." She faced forward. ADA Brooke Ellison entered through the side door with 2 men following her. They were both in suits. One carried a folder thick with printed charts. The other carried a black case, the kind consultants used when they wanted their opinions to look expensive. David's jaw shifted. "What?" Maya whispered. "Experts. You knew. I expected one." She brought 2. The judge took the bench at 9-2. The courtroom rose, then sat. The wood creaked. Someone coughed near the back. Maya could hear paper shuffling, pens clicking. The small sounds of a system preparing to sound reasonable while doing something cruel. Ellison stood first. "Your Honor, the state calls Dr. Randall Pierce." The first expert took the stand. He was introduced as a biomechanics consultant with experience in force analysis and law enforcement injury assessment. He had silver hair, rimless glasses, and the smooth patience of a man accustomed to being paid for certainty. Ellison guided him through his credentials, then turned to the matter at hand. "Dr. Pierce, based on your review of the available materials, do you have an opinion about the strike delivered by the defendant?" "I do. And what is that opinion?" Pierce adjusted his glasses. The motion appears consistent with a trained martial arts technique designed to destabilize a target. Given the defendant's background, it is reasonable to conclude she understood the potential for serious harm. Maya felt every eye shift toward her. Ellison nodded. Could such a technique, applied in an uncontrolled environment such as an airport, result in catastrophic injury? David stood. Objection. Speculative. Sustained. The judge said. Rephrase. Ellison did not look bothered. Could such a technique create a serious risk? Yes, Pierce said. Especially when used against an unsuspecting person. David's pen stopped moving. Maya stared at the table. Unsuspecting. The words sat there, polished and false. Cole had kicked her. Cole had stepped toward her. Cole had reached for her with both hands. But in this room, with the right expert and the right framing, he became unsuspecting. Then came the second expert. His name was Victor Lang, a former defensive tactics instructor who had trained police departments across the Southeast. He had a large build, a heavy voice, and the kind of confidence that filled empty spaces before facts could. Ellison played a short demonstrative clip, not of the airport incident, but of a Taekwondo kick from a training video. A fighter in a white uniform struck a padded target with a sharp crack. The sound echoed through the courtroom. Maya's stomach tightened. That is not what I did, she whispered. I know, David said. Lang pointed at the screen. When someone has black belt level training, their legs are not ordinary limbs in a confrontation. They are weapons. A trained person knows that, Ellison asked. In your opinion, could Dr. Williams have avoided using that technique? Yes. How? She could have complied. A low murmur moved through the gallery. David rose slowly. Objection. Legal conclusion, and assumes facts not in evidence. Sustained, the judge said. But the damage had already entered the air. Ellison continued, more carefully. Would you characterize the defendant's response as proportional? Lang looked toward Maya. He did not look long, but long enough. No. In my opinion, this was an intentional takedown by a trained fighter against an officer in a security zone. Ellison paused, then asked the question quietly enough to seem reluctant. Would it be unreasonable to describe the action as potentially lethal? David was on his feet before Lang could answer. Objection. Ellison turned. Your Honor, the witness is qualified to discuss force potential. He is not qualified to inflame this courtroom with homicide language based on a partial record, David said. The judge looked annoyed. Miss Ellison, I'll withdraw and rephrase. But Lang had already said enough without saying it. Potentially lethal. Intentional takedown. Weapons. Trained fighter. Words did not need to be admitted to do their work. Maya felt the room closing in. Her breath shortened. She looked toward David's briefcase, where her phone sat hidden and silent. She imagined it lighting up with her mother's name. She imagined Marcus on a hospital bed, his body waiting, while strangers debated whether her leg was a weapon. She could handle being lied about. She could handle being hated by people who never watched the whole video. But the thought that this performance might keep her from Denver another day made something inside her bend. David noticed. He placed one hand flat on the table, near but not touching hers. Stay with me, he said quietly. No. You're in Denver. Come back here for 5 minutes. She blinked. The courtroom returned in pieces. The judge, the witness, Cole in the wheelchair, Harlan's calm face, Ellison's folder, David's hand on the table. David stood for cross-examination. Mr. Lang, you reviewed footage before giving your opinion? Yes. The complete airport video? I reviewed the materials provided. Did those materials show Officer Cole kicking Dr. Williams first? Lang hesitated. I did not see that portion. So when you told this court she could have complied, you were not considering that she had just been physically forced out of a line where she had valid medical priority documents. I was assessing the technique. Of course. Techniques are easier than truth. Objection, Ellison said. Sustained, the judge replied. Mr. Harper, David nodded. Did the materials you reviewed show Dr. Williams continuing to strike Officer Cole after he fell? No. Did she advance toward him? No. Did she raise her hands? I saw her hands come up. Would a person intending to continue an assault usually step back and raise open hands? Lang shifted in the witness chair. Not necessarily. That was not my question. Lang's jaw tightened. Generally, no. David let the answer sit. Then his phone buzzed inside his briefcase. Maya heard it. So did David. He continued facing the witness, but she saw the tiny pause in his shoulders. Denver. She knew it before he looked. The phone buzzed again. David turned to the judge. Your Honor, I need a brief medical recess. My client's brother is in critical condition, and the court has documentation regarding the emergency nature of her role in his care. Ellison stood. Your Honor, we are in the middle of testimony. The state has accommodated this issue repeatedly. Maya looked at her then. Not angrily. Not dramatically. Just directly. Ellison saw it and looked away first. Judge Whitcomb rubbed his forehead. 5 minutes. David opened the briefcase and handed Maya the phone before the judge had finished speaking. She stepped into the side hallway and answered. Mama? Evelyn's voice was thin and shaking. They need the decision now. They said the risk is changing by the hour. Maya closed her eyes against the beige courthouse wall. I'm here, she said. Put the surgeon on. Put everyone on. Behind her, inside the courtroom, Cole remained in his wheelchair, and Harlan remained still. They believed the morning was going their way. They did not know that David Harper's briefcase also held a sealed drive, verified copies, and a truth waiting for the right moment to breathe. The plane touched down in Denver just after sunset, and Maya was out of her seat before the seatbelt sign had finished fading. A flight attendant gently reminded passengers to remain patient while the jet bridge connected. But patience had become a word Maya no longer trusted. She stood in the aisle, with one hand gripping the overhead bin, her phone in the other, watching the signal bars return one by one. The moment they did, 3 messages arrived from Evelyn. Still in surgery. No change yet. Call when you land. Maya called before the last passengers had even reached for their bags. Mama, I'm here. Evelyn did not answer right away. Maya heard hospital noise first, then her mother's breath, thin and shaking. They're still working, Evelyn said. The nurse came out 15 minutes ago. She said he's holding, but it's complicated. I'm coming straight there. I know. Those 2 words broke something open in Maya. Not because they were dramatic, but because for the first time since Atlanta, her mother could say them without pretending. Maya was coming, not trying, not hoping, not fighting through a system designed to hold her in place. Coming. At the curb. She found a rideshare already waiting. David had arranged it before she landed, because David Harper thought of practical things even while standing inside legal fires. The driver, a middle-aged man with a Rockies cap and a quiet manner, looked at her in the rearview mirror after she gave the hospital name. You got someone there? He asked. My brother. He nodded once and pulled away from the airport. Then, I'll get you there safe. Denver passed outside the window in streaks of winter light. Dark mountains rose in the distance, almost invisible against the sky. Maya tried to review Marcus's surgical risks in her head, but the facts would not stay arranged. Instead, she saw the airport corridor, the silver suitcase, Lena's hands clasped in court, Cole's wheelchair, Harlan's face. When the federal agent spoke, she saw all the stolen minutes lined up like witnesses, each one pointing toward the hospital she was finally nearing. When she reached Children's Hospital, she did not remember paying the driver. She only remembered running. The lobby smelled like sanitizer, warm plastic, and cafeteria coffee. A volunteer at the front desk started to ask where she was going, but Maya had already shown her ID and the temporary visitor clearance Evelyn had texted her. Elevators, hallway, surgical waiting area, a turn too sharp, a nurse calling her name. Then Evelyn was there. Her mother rose from a chair near the far wall, smaller than Maya remembered, and stronger than anyone had a right to be after so much fear. For 1 second, they stood looking at each other. Then Maya crossed the space and fell into her mother's arms. Evelyn held her hard. My baby, she whispered. I'm sorry, Maya said into her shoulder. No, I should have been here. You are here. Maya pulled back. Evelyn's eyes were red. Her cardigan was wrinkled. A hospital bracelet hung loose around her wrist, because she had been designated as family contact. She looked like a woman who had spent days bargaining with God and machines at the same time. "Any update?" Maya asked. "Not since the nurse. They said the surgeon would come when they reached the next stage." Maya sat beside her, but sitting still was its own kind of battle. She called up Marcus's latest labs on the hospital tablet, reviewed the imaging notes, and spoke briefly with a surgical fellow who came out to confirm details. Her voice changed when she talked medicine. It steadied. The sister was terrified, but the doctor knew where to put her hands. 2 hours passed, then 3. Evelyn dozed for 7 minutes with her head against the wall, and Maya watched the hallway as if staring could pull the surgeon through the doors faster. Her phone buzzed again and again. Messages from David. "Thomas, Mrs. Price, Master Cho." One from Lena, sent through David's number. "Tell your brother a cleaning lady in Atlanta said don't quit." Maya read it twice and smiled through tears. At 11:46 p.m., the double doors opened. The lead surgeon stepped out wearing blue scrubs and a cap still pressed into his hair. Maya stood so quickly the tablet nearly slid from her lap. "Dr. Williams," he said. Evelyn reached for Maya's hand. The surgeon removed his mask. His face was tired, deeply tired, but not defeated. Marcus made it through the procedure. Evelyn's knees weakened. Maya caught her before she could sink. "He made it? He made it through surgery," the surgeon said carefully. "The next 24 to 48 hours are critical, but we were able to stabilize the vascular inflammation and relieve the pressure we were most concerned about. Your input helped us choose the timing." Maya closed her eyes, and this time the tears came without asking permission. Evelyn covered her mouth with one hand. "Can we see him?" "Soon. He's going to ICU. He'll be sedated for now, but yes, soon." When Maya finally saw Marcus, he was surrounded by machines, tubes, monitors, and soft blue light. He looked younger than 18 in the hospital bed. His face had lost its usual mischief. His hands, always moving when he talked, lay still against the blanket. Maya stood beside him and touched his fingers gently. "Hey, troublemaker," she whispered. "I got here." Evelyn stood on the other side of the bed, one hand resting on Marcus's arm. For a while, neither woman said anything. The machines spoke for all of them. Steady beeps and soft mechanical breaths. The fragile music of a life still fighting. Maya leaned close to her brother's ear. "You are not allowed to scare us like this again. I have court orders now. I will use them." Evelyn let out a broken laugh. It was the first laugh Maya had heard from her mother in days. The days that followed did not heal everything at once. Real life rarely respected the neat endings people wanted. Marcus's recovery was slow. There were fevers, setbacks, cautious improvements, and long nights when Maya sat in the ICU chair with medical papers on her lap and fear sitting quietly beside her. But then Marcus opened his eyes. Then he squeezed Maya's hand. Then, one gray morning, he whispered so softly she almost missed it. "You bossed them?" Maya bent over him, laughing and crying at the same time. "Everybody." He smiled faintly. "Good." Back in Atlanta, the story unraveled faster than Harlan could repair it. Federal investigators seized airport records. The suitcase route widened into a larger investigation, involving security bypasses, hidden payments, and falsified logs. Captain Harlan was suspended, then indicted. Travis Cole's injury claims collapsed under medical review, witness testimony, and the courtroom footage of him beginning to rise from his wheelchair when the lie cracked. The charges against Maya were dismissed with prejudice. Ada Brooke Ellison held a brief press conference outside the courthouse. She did not dress it up with excuses. "Our office relied on an incomplete and misleading account," she said. "Dr. Maya Williams should not have been charged on that record. It was not enough to erase what happened, but it was enough to enter the truth into the public record." Thomas Reed testified about the deleted phone video and the unauthorized access to his cloud account. Lena Ortiz entered federal witness protection protocols for workplace retaliation, though she refused to let anyone call her a hero. "I cleaned what needed cleaning," she told a reporter weeks later, and that was the only quote she gave. Mrs. Price mailed pound cake to Denver. Master Cho sent a photograph of Maya at 17, wristband visible, her father standing proudly beside her. David Harper kept working, because one dismissed case did not repair an airport, a police department, or a system that had nearly traded a young doctor's freedom for a suitcase. 6 months later, Marcus Williams walked through Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport with a cane in his right hand and Maya on his left side. He was thinner than before. His steps were slower, but he was walking. Evelyn followed close behind, pretending not to hover and failing completely. Lena Ortiz waited near the medical priority lane in a navy jacket, no janitorial cart beside her this time. She had been transferred to an administrative position while the airport investigation continued, and though she claimed she hated sitting at a desk, Maya knew she liked having a chair with her name on it. When Lena saw Marcus, her face softened. "So this is the brother who caused all that trouble," she said. Marcus grinned. "I heard you're the lady who saved my sister." Lena pointed at Maya. "Your sister saved herself. I just found the part they tried to hide." Marcus looked toward the priority lane. The ropes were open. Travelers moved through quietly, holding documents, medical passes, boarding papers, all the small proofs people carried when life became urgent. His smile faded. "Is this where it happened?" he asked. Maya followed his gaze. For a moment, the airport changed again. She saw the boot, the floor, the pass bent at one corner, Cole's hands reaching, her own voice saying she was not resisting. She heard her phone ringing from inside her coat, carrying her brother's need through a door no one would let her open. Then the present returned. Marcus stood beside her, alive. Evelyn was behind her, breathing. Lena was there, seen. Thomas had sent a message that morning from Phoenix, where he was finally spending time with his sister. "Tell Maya, I backed up the backup." David was somewhere in the building, meeting with airport officials who now returned his calls quickly. Maya looked at Marcus. "This is where they thought I would move," she said. Marcus leaned a little more weight onto his cane. "And did you?" Maya looked down at the cloth band around her wrist. The words had faded even more now, but they had not disappeared. Control, courage, mercy. "No," she said. "I didn't." They stood there together, not blocking the lane, not proving anything to anyone, simply occupying the space with the quiet dignity of people who knew what it had cost to remain. Around them, the airport kept moving. Flights boarded. Announcements echoed. Suitcases rolled over polished tile. Somewhere, a child laughed. Somewhere, an older man thanked a gate agent for helping him find his way. Somewhere, a woman held a medical priority pass in her hand and stepped into a line she had every right to stand in. And because Maya Williams had refused to sign a lie, because Lena Ortiz had refused to let the truth be erased, because Thomas Reed had trusted the traces left behind, because David Harper had known how to make evidence speak, that woman moved forward without being touched. Maya took her brother's arm. "Come on," she said. "Mama's going to accuse us of walking too slow." Evelyn snorted behind them. "I heard that." Marcus laughed. Weak, but real. Together, they walked past the place where a lie had tried to take root and found, instead, that justice sometimes began with one person standing still long enough for the truth to catch up. The lesson from Maya's story is simple, but powerful. Truth may be delayed, hidden, mocked, or buried beneath fear, but it does not disappear when good people refuse to look away. Sometimes justice begins with one person standing still, one witness speaking up, one stranger choosing courage, and one heart refusing to sign a lie just to make life easier. Maya reminds us that dignity is not given by uniforms, titles, or public opinion. Dignity is something we carry, even when the world tries to push us out of line. Thank you for listening to this story until the very end. Your time, your attention, and your heart mean more than words can say. Please let us know what you think about the way this story was told. Your comments help us improve each new episode and bring you stories that are more emotional, meaningful, and worth hearing. And if you have a true story, a family story, or a powerful story about justice, courage, kindness, betrayal, or hope, please share it with our channel. Your story might be the next one that touches someone's heart and reminds them they are not alone. This video is a work of fiction created with the assistance of artificial intelligence. All characters, events, and situations are not real and do not represent any actual people or true stories. The content is intended for storytelling and emotional illustration only.